There are people in your life who are never desperate, never chasing, never begging, never repeating themselves. You call them, they take their time calling back, and somehow, you feel lucky when they do. You invite them to things. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't, and their absence makes the next time feel like a privilege. These people are not smarter than you. They are not better looking. They don't have more money, more talent, more time. What they have is something far more dangerous. They understand a truth that most people spend their entire lives running away from. Value is not given. It is manufactured, and the ones who know how to manufacture it, quietly, patiently, without ever saying a word about it, these people don't just succeed, they dominate. In business, in love, in politics, in rooms you will never even know existed. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this in 1513, sitting in a cold Florentine farmhouse after being exiled, tortured, and stripped of everything he had built. He had nothing left to lose. So he wrote the truth, not the polite truth, not the comfortable truth, the operational truth, the kind that works whether or not you want it to. Today, we are going to go inside that truth. 7 psychological tricks. Machiavelli's fingerprints are on every single one, that the most valued people in history have used to make themselves irreplaceable. Pay attention, because some of these you may already be falling for. Before we begin, a warning. What you're about to hear is not motivational. It is not believe in yourself advice, wrapped in philosophical packaging. This is the cold machinery of human psychology, the levers that move people, the architecture of perception. Use it wisely, or at least use it consciously, because the alternative is that someone else uses it on you. Trick 1. Make yourself scarce before they know they want you. In 1945, a young economist named George Stigler was trying to understand why prices rise and fall the way they do. What he discovered wasn't just about markets. It was about desire. His conclusion was almost embarrassingly simple. Scarcity creates value, not inherent worth, not quality, not merit. Scarcity. A diamond is not valuable because it is useful. It is not valuable because it is beautiful. Many things are beautiful. It is valuable because you have been told, repeatedly, that there are not enough of them for everyone. The moment a diamond mine is discovered that could supply the entire world, the price collapses. This is not economics. This is psychology. And Machiavelli saw it 500 years before Stigler put a number on it. In The Prince, he writes that a ruler who is always available to his subjects will be treated with contempt, not gratitude. Contempt. Why? Because availability signals that there is no competition for your attention. And if there is no competition, there is no urgency. And if there is no urgency, there is no value. The most valued people you know are not the most available. They are the most appropriately unavailable. There is a difference. Let me be precise. Being unavailable out of laziness or social anxiety, that creates distance. Being unavailable strategically, because you have built a life that is genuinely full, genuinely demanding, genuinely worth protecting, that creates gravity. People start to move toward you, instead of waiting for you to move toward them. The reversal here is stark. Every time you make yourself more accessible to someone who hasn't earned it, you lower your price. Every time. Without exception. Trick 2. Let them invest in you. In 1736, Benjamin Franklin had a problem. A rival legislator, a man of considerable influence in the Pennsylvania General Assembly, despised him, publicly, openly. Franklin had embarrassed him, outmaneuvered him, and made him look slow in a room full of important people. Most politicians in Franklin's position would have done one of two things. They would have attempted a grand gesture of reconciliation, a gift, a compliment, a show of deference designed to neutralize the hostility, or they would have declared war. Franklin did neither. Instead, he sent the man a letter asking to borrow a rare book from his personal library. Just that, a simple request, framed with warmth, a small admission that the rival possessed something Franklin wanted. The man sent the book. Franklin returned it a week later with a brief note of thanks. And the next time they met in the assembly hall, the man who had despised him crossed the room and shook his hand. They were friends until the end of their lives. This is what psychologists now call the Ben Franklin effect. When someone does something for you, when they invest in you, even in a small way, their brain begins to retroactively justify that investment. It whispers, "I wouldn't have helped him if I didn't like him, so I must like him." The mind rewrites history to protect its own consistency. Machiavelli understood this intuitively. He wrote that men are bound more by the benefits they give than by the benefits they receive. Think about how backwards that sounds. Think about how completely, devastatingly true it is. The next time you want someone to value you more, don't give them something. Ask them for something. Small, genuine, something they can do without real sacrifice. Let them invest in you, and watch how quickly their feelings change. Trick 3. Never explain. Never justify. Never apologize for your power. Otto von Bismarck unified Germany through a strategy he called Realpolitik. Translated loosely, the politics of reality. Not idealism, not morality. Not what should work, what does work. And one of Bismarck's most ruthless operational rules was this: never explain your reasoning to those who don't deserve the explanation. Here is the psychological mechanism. When you explain yourself to people who have not asked to understand you, when you justify your decisions to rooms that have not challenged them, you are doing something extraordinarily subtle and extraordinarily destructive. You are asking for approval, and the moment you ask for approval, you have handed the other person a kind of authority over you. You have suggested, non-verbally, that their judgment of your choices matters to you, and that changes the dynamic, permanently. Think of the people in your life who seem most powerful, most grounded, most genuinely difficult to shake. Do they explain themselves constantly? Do they post long captions justifying why they made a decision? Do they over-explain in meetings, adding caveat after caveat to protect themselves from criticism? Or do they make their position known, once, with clarity, and then go quiet? Machiavelli wrote that a prince who is always explaining himself is a prince who has already lost the argument. The modern translation, certainty, is a signal. Explanation is a leak. When you are truly secure in what you are doing, you don't need the room to understand. You need the room to comply. This does not mean arrogance. Arrogance is its own kind of desperation. It tries too hard to look powerful. This is something quieter, colder, competence, followed by silence, followed by results. That combination, nothing in history has been more magnetic. Trick 4, strategic withdrawal. Disappear before they're ready for you to go. In 1969, a psychologist named Elliot Aronson conducted one of the most quietly devastating experiments in the history of social science. He set up a series of interactions where participants were evaluated by another person, a confederate, planted by the research team. Some participants heard only positive evaluations. Some heard only negative ones. Some heard evaluations that started negative and moved toward positive. And some heard evaluations that started positive and then turned critical. The results should have been predictable. They were not. The participants did not most value the person who had always praised them. They most valued the person who had moved from criticism to praise. The gain, the shift, was more powerful than consistent approval. Here is what this means for you. If you are always warm, always available, always enthusiastic, you are giving people the ceiling of what they can expect from you on day one. There is nowhere to go but down. But if you are strategically cooler at the start, present, but slightly reserved, and then you selectively open up, selectively reveal warmth, selectively invest more, every step forward feels like a reward. Every degree of increased intimacy feels earned, feels precious, feels worth protecting. Machiavelli observed this principle in the courts of Renaissance Italy, where the most powerful advisors were always slightly harder to read than the room needed them to be. Never cold enough to be enemies. Never warm enough to be taken for granted. The technical term in modern attachment psychology is variable reinforcement. The emotional experience of it is something closer to obsession. Use this carefully. Used correctly, it creates depth and genuine respect. Used cynically and without care for the other person's well-being, it becomes manipulation in the darkest sense of the word. Know the difference. Honor it. Trick 5. Control what people talk about when you're not in the room. Gaius Octavian, the young man, who would become Augustus Caesar, was 20 years old when Julius Caesar was assassinated. He was thin. He was sickly. He had no army, no title, no money of his own. He had one thing. He understood that reputation is not what people know about you. It is what they imagine about you. Over the following years, before he consolidated real military power, before he seized control of Rome's treasury, before any of the hard levers of dominance were available to him, he managed narrative. He chose which stories spread, which associations people made when they heard his name. He understood that the story people tell about you in a room after you'd left is not a reflection of who you are. It is who you are, socially and politically. This is the 5th trick, and it is perhaps the most architectural. Most people live reactively, inside their own reputations. Something happens. People form opinions. They adjust their behavior, hoping the opinions adjust in response. That is not how it works. Reputation must be actively designed, not through lies, not through propaganda. That strategy almost always collapses on itself, but through deliberate choices about what to show, what to withhold, and what to let others discover slowly. Machiavelli was direct about this. He wrote that men judge more by appearances than by reality, because everyone can see, but few can touch. Everyone can see, few can touch. Most people give everyone access to everything, their struggles, their fears, their failures, their confusion, shared in real time, processed publicly. And then they wonder why people don't seem to respect them the way they respect others who appear more composed. Composed is a choice. The person others talk about with reverence when they'd not in the room. They chose what to reveal. They chose the pace of revelation. They made sure the story being told had a shape they recognized. You can do the same. Start with this. The next time something goes wrong, resist the impulse to narrate it immediately. Sit with it. Process it privately. And when you do speak about it with the calm of someone who has already integrated the lesson. That shift alone will change how people talk about you. Trick 6. Become useful in a way that is difficult to replace. There is a principle in economics called switching costs. It refers to the pain, financial, logistical, emotional, that a person experiences when they stop using one product and begin using another. The companies that dominate markets are rarely the ones with the best products. They are the ones with the highest switching costs. Your data is in their system. Your contacts live in their platform. Your habits are encoded in their interface. Leaving would cost more than staying. Now apply this to human relationships. The most valued people in any organization, any family, any social circle, are not necessarily the most talented or the most likable. They are the ones for whom departure would be most costly. They carry institutional knowledge that no one else has. They hold relationships that transfer nowhere. They perform a function that the structure has come to depend on in ways that are no longer even visible until they threaten to leave. Machiavelli would have called this indispensability, and he had a precise formula for it, buried in the chapters of The Prince that most people skim past. He wrote that a wise ruler should ensure that citizens always need the state and always need him, in good times and bad, because the man who makes himself necessary to others will always have friends. The reversal is this: stop trying to be liked. Start trying to be needed. Liked is fragile. People stop liking you when you inconvenience them. Needed is structural. It survives conflict. It survives distance. It survives time. This is not about being a servant. It is not about making yourself subservient or indispensable through self-sacrifice. It is about finding the specific intersection of what you do better than most and what the people around you are most desperate for, and then positioning yourself, patiently and deliberately, at that exact intersection. Once you are there, once you hold that position, people don't just value you, they protect you. Trick 7. Make your absence felt more than your presence. The final trick is the one that binds all the others together. And it is the one that Machiavelli hid in plain sight, not in the prince, but in his personal letters, written in the years after his exile, when he had lost everything and was watching the powerful from the outside. He wrote to his friend Francesco Vettori, "Fortune is a woman. She allows herself to be beaten and overthrown by those who act boldly." Most people read this as a statement about aggression, about audacity. It is not. It is a statement about economy of presence. The person who is everywhere, who responds to every message, attends every gathering, fills every silence with their voice, becomes wallpaper, invisible through omnipresence. The person who moves through rooms selectively, whose silence is noticeable, whose absence creates a specific texture in the air. That person is felt. There is a neurological reason for this. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly, unconsciously, modeling the future based on patterns from the past. When someone is always there, the brain stops modeling them. They become expected. Expected things are not exciting. They are not desired. They are simply assumed. But when someone is sometimes there, with no fully predictable pattern, the brain stays activated, keeps modeling, keeps wondering, and wondering is just desire without a name. This is the 7th trick, not a tactic you deploy once, a way of moving through the world. Be present enough to be known, absent enough to be wanted, quiet enough to be heard when you speak, and bold enough to leave before the room wants you to. Every time. 7 tricks, rooted in 5 centuries of human nature, refined by men who understood power not as a gift, but as a craft. Here is what I want to leave you with. You have been, at various points in your life, someone else's supply, someone else's background noise, someone they called when no one better was available. You know the feeling, that quiet, vaguely nauseating sense of being peripheral to something you wanted to be at the center of. That feeling is information. It is telling you that somewhere along the way, you gave your time before it was earned. You explained yourself to rooms that hadn't asked. You were always there, and so you stopped being valuable. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince for tyrants. He wrote it for survivors, for people who had watched the powerful operate at close range and wanted, finally, to understand why. Now you understand. The question is not whether you'll use this knowledge. The question, and I say this without judgment, with genuine philosophical curiosity, is whether you already have. Because the most dangerous thing about these 7 tricks isn't that cold, calculating people use them. It's that everyone does. Most just don't know what to call it. If this reached something in you, share it with exactly one person you think is already doing all of this without realizing it. And if you want to go deeper, the next video on this channel is about the 5 types of people. Machiavelli said, you should remove from your life before they remove themselves from yours. It is not comfortable, but comfort has never been the point.